Outer Banks Season 4 Part 2 has just been released, and the first thing I'm going to say is what a 5 episodes that was. After a somewhat underwhelming Part 1, this second installment most definitely made up for it. There was the adventure we were all craving, the relationship of the group being tested but ultimately thriving, emotion within it, and a major death that looks like it set up the main plot for Season 5. With the blue crown being the piece of treasure that not only meant fortune and riches, but also symbolized togetherness, home, and family. The cost that it came at for the group meant that it prevented that very thing from happening. So with that, let's jump into the video and break down the most recent 5 episodes of the show. Here is Outer Banks Season 4 Part 2 Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. JJ's death and what it means for Season 5. This whole season was centered around the group going after the blue crown that they found out was hidden in Morocco. JJ also found out that Chandler Groff was his biological father, and he was ultimately played by him so that he could lead him to the hidden treasure. During this time, we found out that Chandler Groff was actually a criminal that had been arrested several times, had 5 fake identities, and was originally part of the organization that Dahlia headed up. However, he also murdered Omar, Hollis, and we also found out that he murdered Larissa, JJ's mother, because he was simply fed up of being with her and wanted to inherit the fortune. JJ retrieved the crown in the finale of the season, and he was given an ultimatum of having to save Kiara or keep the crown. This was because Groff had her held captive, and the only way to get her out of his hands was for JJ to give up the crown to his father. Within this moment, JJ realized that he didn't care about the fortune and the home that they would rebuild in Pokelandia. He didn't care because the only thing that he cared about and valued was Kiara and his friends, showing that what made a home wasn't the money that was spent on it or even the 4 walls that keep you safe. It was the comforting feeling that you have when you're around people that you love most, something that Groff would never have as he was an evil, selfish human being. JJ said that as he gave his father the crown, and within that moment, Groff then stabbed JJ to the point where he was unsavable, meaning that he died in Kiara's arms as she was in tears. It was always said that the person that found the blue crown got a wish, and JJ didn't reveal it at the time when Kiara asked what it would be, but in his dying moments he said to her that he got his wish and that it came true. It wasn't explicitly spelled out to us what his wish was, but I feel it was to just be loved by Kiara and for the both of them to be together. And that is exactly what we saw in his final moments, them both admitting their love for one another and them being together as one. It was actually a really sad moment watching JJ die, and I didn't expect to feel as emotional as I did when it happened. But with Kiara in tears and John B narrating over the top about how good of a friend JJ was, it was definitely a moment that got me. The last we saw of Groff, he had the crown in his hand, which was covered in blood. And I feel that was symbolic of the fact that the crown that he so desperately wanted cost him a part of himself. He was reflecting on what he did, and there was a slight piece of emotion that looked like it was going to erupt, but it wasn't enough to stop him in his tracks. Groff was heading to Lisbon in Portugal because he had a contact there that was prepared to buy the crown off of him. So it seems like Season 5 of the show is going to pick up there. With the group all upset and sat around the fire, they mentioned how if JJ was alive and it had have happened to somebody else in the group, he would have wanted to have gotten even. So that's the very thing that the group are going to be embarking on in the next season of the show. It's not going to be a hunt for hidden treasure, it's going to be a journey of revenge, and one which will see them get even for JJ's death. Dahlia was also still alive at the end of the season as she fled due to the sandstorm, so I think she's also going to continue to be a threat for the group as she's going to want to kill Groff because he's going to be in possession of the crown. It always felt like this was the season where JJ could have potentially been killed. I thought it would either be himself or Rafe, but with us getting the revelation about who his actual father was and also the fact that his life was simply derailing, it actually felt like the natural end to his story. John B and Sarah. John B and Sarah definitely took a back seat in this season of the show. This was because the main story was centered around JJ. However, what we found out was that Sarah was pregnant with John B's child. This meant that Sarah was obviously more worried about herself when being put in certain situations, and she didn't want to take as many risks. However, the worst of it came when she fell into the ocean as the group were traveling to Morocco. The boat was caught up in a massive storm, and when she went to go get John B, she fell overboard. JJ went in to save her, and several days later they all reunited on the beach. I'm not gonna lie, that was a moment that I did feel was quite unrealistic. Did you see the state of the storm? No way is anybody surviving that and making it to shore. I don't know, I thought it just felt a bit ridiculous and was probably the one thing in this season that just didn't quite work for me. With JJ's death being a big thing for John B specifically, as they were best friends, I think that's going to delay John B and Sarah's initial plan of going back home and starting a life together. They're going to now want to seek revenge too. Sarah and Rafe had a nice moment in this season. They essentially put their differences aside and we saw that they hugged each other for the first time in a long while. Rafe basically had this feeling that everybody was out to get him, and they kinda were. Groff lied to him about being the heir to Goat Island, and the $400,000 that Rafe gave him was all for a scam for Groff to be able to set up a new life. Plus, he also found out that Sonia was paid by Groff to get him to sign the papers and that she didn't actually love him. He's always felt a sense of abandonment by everybody in his life, and the hug that he shared with his sister was a moment that I feel marked the beginning of a transformation for the character and the repairing of the sibling relationship. Will he go to Lisbon with them? Most probably. He's got nobody else he can trust right now back home, and he probably still wants to get revenge on Groff for screwing him over and conning him out of money. Cleo and Pope. Pope was facing charges for assaulting a police officer in this season, and we saw that his get-out-of-jail-free card was there if he joined the military. However, he ran away from that responsibility. This was because he'd rather be with Cleo and his friends. During the climax of the season, Cleo ended up getting shot, and this impacted her quite a lot because she wanted to kill Leitner so that she could get revenge over the fact that he killed Terrence, somebody that was almost like a father to her. With her being wounded, Pope took the gun and fired it at him. Something that he was reluctant to initially do. He'd never killed somebody before, and even when the group only had a couple of shots left, he wasted one, as he couldn't bring himself to do it. But when it came to needing to do it for the person that he loved most in the world, he was able to. Showing that Pope has now entered a darker part of his life, something he's never going to be able to take away. I think we're most likely going to see his mind being impacted in the next season. Killing is something that he never wanted to do, but now he's done it, I think it's going to change him for the worse. My review of Season 4 Part 2. Honestly, Part 2 of Season 4 was so good. I thought it saved the season. The first part was a little bland and felt a bit disjointed and almost like the group weren't really together that much, and I really didn't want that to be the case for this installment, so thankfully it wasn't. Everything just felt large scale with the story. To me, it felt like they were lining it up to kill JJ, but I didn't know if the show would be brave enough to do so. So the fact that they did is something that I really respect. Killing off one of your main characters is a bold move, and they didn't shy away from it. I thought each and every one of the performances was also really strong in this installment. There was a lot more emotion because things just kept going wrong for them, so the performers' range had to be flexible and you could really see that within the characters. For me, I actually think Kiara stole the emotion in the finale. It was heartbreaking watching her so upset. Did I mind the fact that this season was heavily focused on JJ? Not at all, because the plot was so strong. We saw him questioning his identity and the fact that he didn't want to have come from a kook. But even still, the betrayal that he underwent and the realization that his family was the one that he made, rather than the one that he was born into, it was a strong journey for the character to go on. I think Season 5 has the potential to be one of the best seasons, with the same piece of treasure being on the hunt, but also there being an emotional connection for the group in wanting to get revenge. It's going to have more of an emotional edge, and I think we're going to see new sides to the characters. We're probably going to have to wait a little while for the new season, but I'm down to wait as long as the quality is as good as what we got in Part 2. So, there you have it, Outer Banks Season 4 Part 2 Ending Explained. If you want to see Part 1 of Season 4 broken down, then click on the card in the top corner. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find more of your favourite TV shows and movies broken down. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.